Hey everybody, this is Michael Patterson. I'm one of the lead instructors for Anatomy and Physiology, and I'm going to be doing online lectures for Bio 231 for the whole term. Each of these videos will be posted on YouTube and will be about 20 to 30 minutes long, so there'll probably be about 4 to 6 videos for about a week's worth of lecture material. So before we get into that, let me show you a couple things that I'm going to be using today. So one is I'm going to be using the webcam, but not very much, and I'm actually going to switch over now to my screen. And the first place I'm at here is the Moodle site for 231. Yours may look slightly different. This is from the Spring 2020 231-01 class, and you'll see there's a bunch of information, but what I really want to show you here is for each week you're going to notice that there are lecture notes that are right there, and these lecture notes are what I'm going to be using during these lectures. So you can click on one of those, print them out, or you can click on them and use the Foxit reader that we suggested you download to type directly on them. So whatever you want to do with those, or just look at them while I'm using them in the video. I'm going to be going over the introduction today, and later in a different video I'll be starting with tissues. And this is where the links to the videos are. This is probably where you got to this place, and so then each week going on in the future I will go ahead and add more and more stuff, so you'll be seeing that later. The other thing that I want to show you real quickly is we're going to be using these are the notes that we're going to be using, and you can see here on each page there is a title page and another title page and then the actual notes, and we're going to start here in just a minute. And there's one more thing that I want to show you. The other thing I want to show you is these right here is the e-text that you can purchase from Pearson. If you got a access code, if you bought a book at the CCC bookstore and you got an access code, you get the access to the online portal of Pearson, and part of that is the e-text. And so you can see here I'm on page 4 of the e-text. We're about to talk about this in just a moment. So you can do that, but also I will say the page numbers, and you can look in your hard copy book, and that should work for you too. I will be using page numbers from the most recent edition, which is the 11th edition. If you have the 10th edition, that works, but we might be off a page or two. When I'm saying page 4, it might be on page 5, so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to be flipping back and forth between the notes and the book, and let's go ahead and get started here with some of the information. So we're studying human anatomy and physiology, and so as a result we need to define those terms. So the first term, anatomy, literally meaning cutting something apart, is the study of body structures. So if we look right here, the study of body structures, this can be at the small level or this can be at the large level. So we can look at the anatomy of cells or tissues, or we can look at the anatomy of organs. Then we have physiology, and physiology is the study of how body parts function individually and with each other. And so that means what these different body structures are doing, how they're actually working together. Okay, so we've got our anatomy and we've got our physiology, and they always work together, meaning that the structure that you see always helps determine function, and the function always reflects the structure. And so this always helps us understand what's going on. If we see a particular part of the body, we can often infer its function by how it looks. And then sometimes if we know what something does, we can get a hint about how its anatomy should be. And there's a couple examples here below talking about bones and their rigidity and blood flow and how it moves in one direction due to the valves that are in the vessels. So you can think about how structure and function work together. And we'll probably talk about that often when we go through class. The next thing we want to look at is the hierarchy of structural organization. And what we're looking at here when I talk about this is just the levels of organization that start at the smallest, simplest level and go all the way up to the most complex level, which is you, a full, complete organism. Now, as I had said before, this picture is on page 4. And so we'll write that in right here, page 4. However, the picture that's in the book is a little bit different. You can see it's using a soccer player instead of the runner, but the exact same levels are there. So I'm going to go back and we'll fill this one in, but you can look at the one here, or you can look at the one that is in the notes. So the simplest structural hierarchy is the chemical level, and you probably remember this structural hierarchy from your intro bio class. And so this is where atoms before molecules, and molecules are going to make more complex structures, which will end up becoming organelles. And those organelles then are inside of the cells. And so number 2 is our cellular level. So cellular level is next. And as you can see here, the cells here form cells. And the cells can vary in size and shape depending on their function. Remember, anatomy determines physiology. And a single cell can be a simple organism. So this right here, this single cell is the smallest unit of life. Right? So for an example, an amoeba or a single-celled bacteria, something like that. However, many of the organisms are much more complicated and have many more cells, and that's what we're going to look at next here. And we're taking multiple cells working together with a common function, and that gets us to tissues. And so tissues are right here, tissue. All right. And as you can see, there's the definition right here, and then it lists the 4 basic tissue types. And we're going to go over all these later, and you've probably done that before in your intro biology class. So I'll wait and talk more about those different tissue types. The tissue that you see right here in the picture, that is a single smooth muscle cell for number 2, and then the number 3 is a set of smooth muscle, a sheet of smooth muscle working together, and that sheet of smooth muscle is actually found in a capillary, and a capillary is a simple organ. So our number 4 here is organ, and for this one we are looking right here at organ level, and it says formed by 2 or more tissue types, and again these 2 or more tissue types have some sort of common function. And in this case, it's a capillary, so it's moving blood. And they give another example here of a stomach and what kind of tissue types it has. It has epithelial tissue and connective tissue and muscle tissue and even nervous tissue. So all sorts of different tissue types within that one organ. So then we have multiple organs working together to do some common goal, and that we call an organ system. So let's put the organ system in here, and I'm actually going to write the last 2 in. We're going to write organ system, and we're going to write the final one, organism, so we can have these filled out. So we've got the complete thing filled out now. Chemical, cellular, tissue, organ system, and organism. So what is organ system and organism? Well, if we go here to the next page, organ system level is where organs work together to share some sort of common goal. So they use the urinary system as an example, where your kidney is producing the urine, the ureters are sending the urine down to your bladder, and then your bladder is releasing that urine out through your urethra. So all four of those organs work together for one common goal, which is to remove waste products, liquid waste products, from our body. These little guys here are supposed to be quotations. Sometimes we get little errors, so we'll do that for you. So, and then all the organ systems together make an organism, and this is a living human being, and this is all things working together. And this is a good time to talk about health versus stress. So when you're healthy, all of the systems, all the organ systems are working together to promote life. When you're stressed or you have a disease state, there's some disturbance within these systems working, and that causes our healthy state to be interrupted. And there's a word here, homeostasis, which again you might remember from your intro bio class, and we're going to talk about homeostasis a little bit later. But homeostasis in a nutshell is kind of the steady state of our body, making sure that our body is in has the correct levels of all the different things that we need, whether it be glucose or whether it be our pH of our blood or our temperature. And so anytime one of those gets out of whack, our body isn't healthy, and his body is stressed and could potentially have a disease state. Now, notice here where it says B, summary of body organs, that we list all these different organs. And again, I'm noticing there's a little error here. This and this are supposed to represent female and male reproductive. So we'll add those in. These body organs, I'm not going to go over them entirely. We're going to basically go in order through 231, 232, and 233 and cover all these. And so what we're going to be covering this term in 231 is integumentary, skeletal, and nervous. That's all for 231. And then when we get into 232, we'll do muscular, cardiovascular, lymphatic, and respiratory, and then and also immune system. And then in 233, we'll do endocrine, digestive, urinary, and the male and female reproductive system. So if you stay with us for all of the whole series, you'll see all these different body organ systems. However, what I do want to show you really quickly is these body systems are located, see if I can find where they all are here. Maybe they're, let's go back, sorry, 1 second while I try to find them. They're on in your book, and they're under, I'll just pull up the real book and then I'll know exactly where they are. Hey there, I'm back. I paused for a second to find the exact page. So they're on page 6 and 7, and you can see each one's listed, and they show the basic parts of these different systems. And so you can look through all of those if you want to and read them, but I'm not going to cover them right now in class. So, so let's not worry about that. What we do want to talk about is we're going to also look at what's next in our lecture notes, and these are found on page 8. So I believe if we go here, these are what are called the functional characteristics that help us maintain life. And so they start on page 8, and they're all in your lecture notes. So I'm going to actually go into the lecture notes now and cover them there, but you can take a look at them if you want. On page 8 and 9. But let's flip back here. And I'm going to try to highlight a little bit instead of draw lines. So these real quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, I just want to mention a couple quick things. These are things that we have to have working well in order to maintain our life and body functioning. And so many of these are somewhat obvious, so let's just kind of look at a few of these. So first, maintain boundaries. So maintaining boundaries, we're going to maintain internal and external environments separate and distinct. So we want to keep things that we want in, like fluids, and we want to keep things out, like bacteria or viruses. And then obviously, I think you understand movement when I say what movement is, what we're talking about there. We can have internal movement as well as external movement. And then responsiveness. And responsiveness is a really important one. This is where we sense changes and make proper adjustments. We see this a lot in, it's most common with nerve cells, but all cells can respond to their environment. There's a couple examples there. You can go ahead and take a look at those if you want. But I think you probably understand what we mean by responding to our environment. We'll talk more about this when we get to homeostasis. Then we have digestion. Digestion is breaking down foodstuffs into simple molecules, and these are breaking them down into monomers. And monomers have a couple different functions that we use in our body, so we might as well remind ourselves. So we can use hold on one sec here, let's erase. Okay, we can use monomers to repair structures. We can use monomers to build new structures. And we can use them for energy. And if you remember, the molecule that we really like for energy is ATP. So we need to get these monomers into our body. We need to then use them to either repair structures, build new structures, or to make energy. And here are the simple ones that you remember: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. All right, a couple more. We, of course, need to metabolize. And metabolize, the definition of metabolize is, the definition, which is right here, the definition of metabolism is all chemical reactions occur in body cells. This results in the breakdown, so we can write here, results in the breakdown or buildup of complex substances and chemical components. And an example of this, is using, say, nutrients and oxygen from digestive and respiratory system to make some of that ATP we were just talking about. So that's metabolism. We'll get into digestion and metabolism a lot more in the third term of this series. Also in that term, we'll be doing excretion a lot, which is removal of waste products from the body. Okay, and there's different types. Urine eliminates nitrogen-containing metabolic waste. Carbon dioxide eliminates gas waste, the carbon dioxide gas, and then defecation eliminates non-digested food and other waste products. There is one more place that we get rid of some waste, and that is our skin. We do this via sweating. And what we get rid of is a little bit of water. We get rid of a little bit of salts. And we get rid of a little bit of urea. So those three things there are another excretion. Skin, sweating, getting rid of those things. Now, the amount of urea that we get rid of there compared to the amount of urea that we get rid of in the urine is really tiny. Very small amount, but it is enough where we should at least mention that a small amount is released. Okay, and then the last two, which are on the next page here, are reproduction and then growth. And so reproduction, we can have mitosis reproduction, right, which is cell division, and we can have organismal reproduction, which is actually where the sperm and egg produce offspring and perpetuate the species. So both reproductions are done in the case of mitosis all the time in your body, and in the case of organismal in order to perpetuate species. And then lastly, growth. We can make cells get bigger, but when we think of growth, we usually are more commonly thinking of the increase in number of cells. So that's usually what we're talking about when we talk about growth. All right. Survival needs. Now, survival needs will be our last topic of this first video, and then we'll pick up with homeostasis in the next video. Survival needs, we really want to just think of what are the things that we need to stay alive and get constantly or have constantly. And I bet all of these make complete sense to you, and there's probably only one that you don't think about very much. So I'm sure you knew that we needed to have nutrients. We needed to eat food and convert that food into those monomers and then use those monomers for various things. And you're also aware we need oxygen because it's going to be part of our aerobic respiration that you learned about in intro biology. And then you also know about water. Water is used in a lot of chemical reactions, so we need to have water available, and it also dissolves a lot of the molecules that we're using. The last two, you're probably pretty aware of normal body temperature because we take it sometimes when we're not feeling well to see if we have a fever. And temperature, of course, affects the rate of chemical reactions, how quickly or how slowly reactions are occurring. So we want to be in an optimal temperature body temperature. Lastly, this is the one that we don't think about very much, and unless you're a pilot or an astronaut or a diver, you probably don't even ever worry about it, and this is appropriate atmospheric pressure. And this is so breathing can occur and gas exchange can occur effectively. Most of the time we're in parts of the world and at different elevations where we don't need to worry about this, but there are some places where the atmospheric pressure is too low or too high, and we often need special suits in order to survive in those environments, so the pressure is correct. All right, I think we're going to stop there for this very first video, and we will pick up with the second introductory video and start talking about homeostasis. So thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.